So first things first, thank you everyone very much for joining today's webinar. On behalf of myself, Zoe, Hibbos, I see in the room, and the rest of us at Walker Scott, we thank you very much for taking the time out of your day to join this webinar and learn about our product, Klevr Fundraising, which is built on top of Microsoft's Dynamics 365 platform. So just really quickly, we only have a couple slides to get through. There's a ton of stuff to get through within product, so we'll get into the meat of the demo as soon as possible. So we'll just do a high-level overview and introductions to Walker Scott and the Cloud Collective. Then we'll spend most of the time looking through the solution today. And then at the very end, we'll look at the Microsoft's needs assessments offers for nonprofits. So the presenters for today, my name is Richard Gauntlet. I'm a pre-sales consultant here at Walker Scott, and I'm joined by Zoe out of our product team. So really exciting to have her here with us today. She's going to be monitoring the chat. So if you do have any questions, I have muted everyone just to make sure we get through the content today. But if you do have any questions as we go through the solution, please just put them into the chat and Zoe will respond to as many as she can, and we'll collate a list of the others and make sure that we respond to them as soon as possible after today's webinar. We may have time for a quick Q&A at the end. I'm not super sure, so we'll try to make sure we monitor questions as much as possible through the chat and follow-ups. So just briefly, the Cloud Collective is a combination of 4 organizations, and between the 4 of us, we offer the full suite of solutions on the Microsoft ecosystem. So between the 4 of us, we give you the in-depth expertise of small specialist agencies, but across the collective, we give you the broad product knowledge and muscle of the GSI, plenty of staff members across all the organizations within the collective, and retaining the agility of a small organization in the way that we engage with you. So across the Cloud Collective and here at Walker Scott, we have a huge focus on the nonprofit industry. Here are some of the organizations that we are currently doing work with, and 2 ones to call out at the very bottom. The Fred Hollows Foundation and HMRI are currently undergoing implementations of the Klevr Fundraising solution that we're going to spend today looking at during this webinar. So just some helpful statistics. Some of you may be across some of these based on your industry knowledge, but there's some key challenges and opportunities in the changing landscape that the Klevr Fundraising solution has been built to address. And we're hoping that as we go through the system today, you can see some of the ways that the Klevr Fundraising product is going to empower you and help take advantage of some opportunities while also minimizing the impact of some of the current challenges. So what is Klevr and Klevr Fundraising? So Klevr is Walker Scott's umbrella term for all of our products. Within the Dynamics 365 space, we have Klevr Fundraising, solution we're looking at today. We have our grants and contracts management applications, and then we have our membership management. There's quite a tie between Klevr Grants and Klevr Fundraising. Oftentimes our fundraising organizations also do some amount of grant seeking, where they're going after government organization opportunities and applying for grants. And then also they might do some grant making on the back of the funds that they collect through their fundraising efforts. So those 3 products make up our Klevr products, and Klevr Fundraising has been built specifically to help enhance fundraising efforts for organizations. So last slide before the demo, just a high-level walkthrough of what we're going to look at today. So we're going to start in the setup and kind of the reporting area. So we'll start looking at relationship management, kind of classic CRM capabilities, contacts, accounts, collectives. Then we'll look through our DCAP, or our designation, campaigns, appeals, and packages. Within the promote phase, we're not going to look too much at the marketing. There is a whole entire first-party product within the platform that we would leverage most likely to do your marketing efforts. We could basically run an entire webinar on that and how that tool can be used specifically for nonprofit or fundraising organizations. We will, however, be looking at the major donations and bequests side of things there. After that, we'll go through the management. So obviously your donations, your pledges, your regular giving, your gift batches, your imports, all the kind of stuff that's what everyone does on a daily basis. And as we go through the whole thing, we'll look at some of the ways that you can monitor performance and revenue that's coming in from those different areas and how they roll up and can be reported on within the system. So that being said, I'm just going to stop presenting and I'll share screen instead. Hopefully that is now on screen for everyone to see. So this is our very first look at the Klevr Fundraising product. For some of you that aren't familiar with Microsoft and their solutions, there is a unified look to them so that it's very intuitive for users once you get onto the system, the way that users can navigate around the application, find the areas that are relevant to them based on their role and the tasks that they're trying to complete. In terms of navigation, on the left side here, we have what's known as the sitemap. So you can see I have a My Work area where I can see some reporting functionality and any tasks or activities that are assigned to me as a user working on the system. Then we have our relationships area, our fundraising area, and our marketing area. And then we're going to look through a couple of these today where we're looking at our prospecting, major donations opportunities, and our donations. Front and center, and really important within this functionality, is a dashboard. So these dashboards are highly configurable. There are two that come out of the box. So we have our Klevr Fundraising overview and then our Klevr Development overview. You can easily toggle back and forth between the dashboards available to you, and then you can very easily create client-specific dashboards during your implementation. Users can also create user dashboards that are specific to them. If they have a certain role and they want to report across certain key metrics within the system, they can easily put these dashboards together utilizing lists, bar graphs, charts, that kind of stuff, so that they can easily find information and store that information within the system. It's also quite important to talk about the platform aspect of the D365 platform. And because it's within the Microsoft ecosystem, you're going to have native integration to all of the Microsoft productivity applications. So at the top right here, you can see we have a Teams chat. This allows me to have bi-directional integration with the Teams application. So I could click this and it will pull up all my Teams messages on the side here, and I can send or communicate with my fellow staff members without leaving my application. You have the similar thing with Outlook, where you can either send and receive emails from on system. And as mentioned, that is a bi-directional integration. So you can also work within your Teams application and you can iframe it in your CRM, or work within your Outlook and you can send emails directly to the system to be stored within system. One of the other really nice integrations is Power BI. So obviously Power BI is Microsoft's reporting tool, and you can create reports within Power BI, which can then be embedded here. So within this dropdown, you can also have Power BI embedded dashboards, which you can then select, and you can leverage the reporting functionality that Power BI tool gives you, but you can present those reports within any of your D365 applications, including Klevr Fundraising that we're looking at today. So if I wanted to take a look at the development overview, I can easily toggle my dashboard on screen. And here you can see I'm getting presented with a bunch of other information. This is now development. So I'm seeing things like donor commitments that are expected within the next 30 days. Importantly, all of these dashboards allow you to drill down. So if I wanted to get more information about a specific contact, today we're going to pick on Zoe. So I can select Zoe's record, and that's automatically going to take me to Zoe's contact record within the system so I can get more information here. Now, obviously, contacts within a fundraising system are incredibly important. So there's quite a lot of information being presented to you on screen. On the left, we have the high-level contact information, so things like Zoe's first, last, middle name, and then also important contact information and a company name if Zoe does belong to an organization. In the middle, we have some personal information. Now, this information is often used for segmentation. So things like Zoe's birth date, the birth year automatically gets pulled out, and her age will automatically get calculated. And then I can mark whether or not Zoe is deceased, and we can mark a deceased date. Further down, we have some communication preferences. So we have our receipt preferences. So Zoe can choose how she'd like to receive her receipts. When you are creating your receipt templates, which we'll talk about later, you have the ability to have formal and informal salutations, which you can put on them, which may be utilized within the template itself. And then you have Zoe's contact preferences. All of this can be fronted through the portal, and Zoe would be able to, utilizing a self-service portal, update her contact information so that she can communicate with us how she wants us to communicate with her. Then on the right, we have a really cool component, which gives us a bunch of calculated information based on Zoe's historical relationship with the organization. So we're going to get things like the first gift that Zoe ever gave us, the last gift. We're going to have the first gift amount, the average gift amount that Zoe donates, the largest gift amount. And really importantly with all these calculations is that these are event-based. So anytime a gift is created, these calculations will automatically update. It's not a scheduled time or job that runs at a certain period. These will update in real time to make sure that we have real-time information, once again, often used in terms of segmentation when you're looking to target individuals based on their historic donations to your organization. The other important call out here is to mention that these calculations are indeed written into fields on the contact record. So that allows us to do reporting and segmenting based on this information. It's persistent within the system. This is not just a calculation that's presented. There's written into fields and stored on system for future usage. So if I want to navigate across the tab and get more information about Zoe, the first tab is what is known as the timeline. Now the timeline is really important within Dynamics. Here I can add what is called activities. So if I have any tasks that are assigned to a user to complete in relation to Zoe's contact, maybe we're making phone calls with her, sending emails, having appointments, all of those records will appear within the timeline, which allows me to have all the historical context of communications, notes, meetings, appointments that have happened with Zoe. Now, it wouldn't be a webinar of Microsoft product without some talk of AI, so we will mention some AI functionality here. We'll try to highlight the areas that Microsoft's continued investment in AI is really beneficial, and this is one of them. So at the top here, you can see that there's AI functionality here by that logo, and this is giving me a summary of all of the information that exists within the timeline, so that as a user, potentially I've never met Zoe before, I've never talked to her, but immediately I can go to Zoe's contact, and this timeline summary is going to give me a summarization of all of the important correspondence that we've had with Zoe. So I have that context in mind as I have further discussions with Zoe about her engagement with my organization. This is really nice. You can also copy this out and you can share it amongst teams if there's other people joining me on a meeting with Zoe or something like that. So I can share that information around quite easily. Another area where the AI is quite nice is, let's say that I wanted to send Zoe an email. I can select the send email, and then I have the ability to draft with Copilot. A lot of you are probably familiar with what this would look like now, but I can basically send an email to Zoe using natural language, and that's just going to generate that email based on my prompt. It will then give me the ability to decide if I want to keep the content that it's given me. I might adjust the tone so I can make it more nice, more funny, whatever I decide to do based on my organization's tonality. Or I can say discard, start over, or maybe potentially even translate this into another language. So that's another area where the AI functionality is quite beneficial. Moving along, we have our addresses tab. So we have two addresses, primary and secondary addresses. And if you want audit history to capture address changes, then that's easily set up. There's out-of-the-box audit functionality. So just targeting that towards these fields will allow you to capture information on contacts as they change addresses. The classification area is a really important part of the Klevr Fundraising product. So first thing we want to capture is the source of where this constituent came from. And then we want to capture what we call their classification code, which is basically letting us know whether or not Zoe's engagement with my organization is going up or decreasing. So this allows me to capture this, which once again, you can use that to then target further engagement and see if you can re-energize Zoe if she's becoming less and less engaged, or potentially we can help nurture that continued engagement with the organization. We then have the ability to capture the primary constituent type. So we can see that Zoe is our primary constituent type is of donor. However, down here, we can have additional types. So we can see that Zoe is also a volunteer, and you can give those additional roles start and end dates. Potentially, Zoe is also a solicitor. She might also sit on the board. So we can capture all of Zoe's relationships with the organization here. Once again, you can then use that to target reporting and ways that we can communicate with Zoe. The prospecting tab is utilized for the major donations. So here you can see any outstanding opportunities that are related to Zoe, and also any pledges that Zoe has made to the organization. You see that Zoe is quite an engaged donor at this point. And moving along, we have our payments tab. At the bottom here, we're going to see all of the actual payment records that have been created in the system from Zoe, so all the donations that she's made. And then we have our payment methods. Now, payment methods also a really important area here. The key call out is that no payment information or payment method information is stored on system. It's all stored within a payment gateway. We write back a tokenized version of that into the system, so you can capture key things like date or card expiry dates, so you can send notifications to individuals to let them know that potentially Zoe has a recurring donation that's been set up, and the payment method on that is about to expire. We can let Zoe know that she needs to go in and create a new payment method so that it can be utilized for those subsequent payments against her recurring donation. And then finally, we can just go to the gifts tab and we can see the last gift and some information from Zoe's last gift. We can see she recently gave $1, and then we can see all of the historical gifts that Zoe's given over the lifetime of her relationship with the organization. So I'm just going to jump back to the summary tab, and we're now going to look to the company name. So I'm going to click into the company name, which will allow me to drill through. And now we're looking at Walker Scott, the organization. Now, importantly, in Klevr Fundraising, a donor might be a contact or an account. So in this case, we can see that we have the account, and we can see we also have our calculated fields, our receipt preferences. Across the top, we have a lot of the same options. We're not going to go through all of it again, but the key call out at this point is that we have this related contact, and we have Zoe listed as the primary contact. Now, this is really important because when an organization does make a donation, we still need a way to communicate with someone at that organization if there are any updates that need to be done to the donation, or if there's any communication we need to have with them. In this instance, anytime that Walker Scott, the organization, is the donor, the primary contact on the donor record or donation record, which we'll look at in a little bit, is going to default to Zoe. It can be updated if for specific donations there's a different contact, but it will default to the primary contact at that organization to allow for continued communications. So moving along, we're going to now go to collectives. Now, collectives, once again, a important theory or important thing to consider within Klevr Fundraising. And collectives can be a lot of things. So collectives are really good when we're using peer-to-peer giving. So a lot of organizations will have another system such as a fundraising or something, and then they need to integrate that into their fundraising solution. So this is where those records would end up, where you can allow, let's say that Zoe's doing a run during October. For every mile that she runs, someone's going to make donations. So that can all be tracked within the collective, and anyone that makes a donation alongside that will be tracked in there as well. The other thing that's really useful for collectives is the household. So I'm going to go to the Korbash family, and so we can track the household here. And so if I go to the connections tab, I'm going to see all of the individual contacts, or potentially it's a collective of accounts. But these are all of the people that make up this collective. So in this instance, it's just Zoe's family, basically. So Abe, Junior, Val, and Zoe, they make up that collective so that we can report across all of the donations that each of those individuals will make. We also do have the ability to have prospecting. So you might have major opportunities or pledges that are associated to a collective, as well as an account or a contact. Finally, we can go to the gifts, and we would see all of the gifts that the collective has created and any recurring donations that are set up as well. So we're just going to jump down into our DCAP, so our reporting hierarchy. So first one we're going to look at is our designations. So this is standard fundraising setup. So we're going to go into the Safe Homes designation. And this is where we can see our first look at monitoring or performance, as mentioned in the slideshow. So on the right side, we can see some lifetime value of gifts, all the gifts that have been made towards this designation, value of all the commitments that are outstanding, and the count of all of the commitments. Once again, this information is written to fields within the system, so it can be used for reporting. On the left side, we just have our high-level designation information. We have our planning information here. So start and end date. This may be a child designation. So you have the ability to have hierarchy within designation setups. And then we have some key financial information. So this is similar across the Klevr product. So it's there within the Klevr Grants product as well, but we have patterned integration, which is finance system agnostic. So it's built in a way that you can easily integrate to different finance systems, regardless of size, as small as maybe an MYOB as a 0, all the way up to a really big and powerful ERP, like a finance and operations. The intent here is that we are able to create most of the payload and remove most of the complexity from the integration layer within the CRM, the Klevr Fundraising solution itself. Once again, we have our activities tab, so we can have a timeline of notes and calls and meetings that we're having about this designation. That's standard dynamic, so you'll see that pretty commonly throughout the solution here. And then we have our prospecting. So any major donations or pledges that have been related to this designation, you can easily see them here and drill through to them. So moving down to our campaigns. So if we select a campaign and we'll go to the Safe Homes campaign, a lot of this is similar, so we're not going to go all the way through, but we have a campaign here, campaign information on the left, planning information here, and then importantly, we have our templates. This templates area for email and print templates is visible on campaigns, appeals, and packages. And there's a configurable rule which allows you, when you're doing your receipt generation, to select which order should be followed. And then the system will generate a receipt or email based on the template that it finds within that order. So for instance, it gives you the ability to, I'm creating a receipt and we want the order to go campaign, appeal, packages. The donation itself is related to a specific campaign. So it will come in here and it will find the email template that exists within that campaign, and then it will create the email receipt or the email based on that template. In the instance that it does not find one, so there's no print template, then it might go down to the appeal or the package level to find the template. You can also reverse that order, so you can go bottom up and you can go package, appeal, and campaign in terms of your template generation. So it gives you a lot of flexibility in terms of how those are set up and how receipts and emails are generated. Once again, on the right, we have our revenue tracking and monitoring. So you have those calculated fields, which can be used to easily see how this campaign is performing against its expected targets. I'm going to skip across to the hierarchy tab, and this is once again just standard NFP stuff, but we have all of the appeals and packages that have been set up that belong to this campaign. We can easily drill down into these to get more information or create a new appeal or package. We're not going to do that today just in the interest of time, but you'll get the standard kind of summary information on each of those and the ability to have different start and end dates within each appeal and package within the limitations of the upper level. But this gives you that hierarchical nature, so you have the reporting capabilities and you can roll up information as it comes into the system really easily, and really easy to see how everything is performing within the system itself. So then down at the bottom, we have our marketing lists and our appeal to lists. So marketing lists are just standard marketing functionality, the ability to segment users into groups based on either attribute or behavior based. And then we have our appeal to lists. So jumping into one of these, we have the ability to create appeals to individuals. So essentially you have the ability to have a marketing list. Potentially there's 50 people within that marketing list, and then you're going to send an appeal to each one of those individuals. You can create this record dynamically with some of the information on terms of the donor, primary contact, and some of these fields we'll cover off in the donation area. And then it can be regarding either a campaign, appeal, or a package. There's some really cool stuff that we'll talk about within the gift batch, but essentially this can then this string can then be put into a barcode that can be sent on the actual mail out. And then when that is sent back to the organization, we have some ways that we can easily import that into a gift batch, which removes a lot of the human error and reduces the time to do that process quite simply. So that's all we're going to cover in the fundraising section. So we're going to quickly move across to our prospecting. You can see once again, our sitemap's updated. We've covered all of these areas. So we're just going to go into the prospecting area. And the first one that we're going to take a look at is our bequests. And so we will look at this bequest. Now, bequests are treated differently than opportunities. Obviously, there's a much more sensitive nature around how bequests should be handled. So they're different tables, even though they're somewhat similar in terms of the way that they are treated by the organization. It's just really important that we have the ability to be sensitive in nature in terms of how we communicate with different stakeholders related to this bequest. On the left, we have just some general bequest information. On the right, we have our donor information. So once again, we can see who the potential donor is going to be, a primary contact. The attributed to is often utilized in the case of a collective. So attributed to might be for any donation or bequest. We might attribute that to a donation. Soft credit is quite straightforward, but we can give a soft credit to someone. Let's say that Zoe helped with this one, then we can add Zoe as someone and she'll receive a soft credit when this bequest is closed. And then you also have your solicited by, which can either be a contact or a user because they're typically individual staff or close contact records. At the bottom here, we have our financial information. So we can see the expected amount and the expected date, which is very real, potentially somewhat insensitive, but very real in terms of the functionality that's required by organizations here. Then on the right, you have your categorization. So obviously your decap. And then at the bottom, if this is in tribute or in memory of anyone, you can store that here and a message alongside that. Opportunities are somewhat similar. So we'll just jump into an opportunity here. So opportunities, obviously, we're going after major donations in this space. Once again, you have your donor information. So the key people here, you have your financial information when you think it's going to close, the decision process, whether it's individual, committee, or unknown. And then on the right side, you can track whether or not this has been committed or not. And then obviously your categorization. Importantly, on the opportunity records, you have the ability to have stakeholders. So you can put multiple stakeholders here and you can assign roles to those stakeholders. So in this instance, we can see that Warren Ritz is the potential donor in this instance, and Zoe is the solicitor, but you can continue to add on to this so you can have a solid understanding of all the stakeholders that may be involved with a specific opportunity. If you do close opportunity records, then oftentimes a contract needs to be set up so that you can do acquittal against those funds. Oftentimes people making major donations want to see how those funds are set up. So we have the ability to create a contract on the back of an opportunity, and then you can create budgets, milestones, transactions associated with that so that you can then provide reporting and acquittal information back to individuals that have made major donations here. Moving along to pledges. So if we drop into a pledge. So now we have pledges, which once again, very common within the NFP environment. We have the donor information. So here we can see Val is the donor and the primary contact. We can see the financial information. Really importantly here, we have the functionality of around an admin fee type. So this could be a no admin fee, an amount, or a percentage. In this instance, we've selected a percentage. So we can see we've added 10% because this is a donation of 15,000. It's then calculated for us an administration fee of 15,000 and then the actual donation amount, which is 13,500. Also, very importantly here, we can see that we have an admin fee designation. So in order to facilitate our reporting requirements, we can select a designation that the admin fee will roll up against so that you can track that separately from the donation itself if desired. If you want to put it all within the one, then that's also possible. But typically, we find that organizations want to separate that out so they can track how their administration fees are going and how much they're impacting performance of other designations. Once we've solicited a pledge and we've talked to an individual and they're getting to the point where they're going to start making some actual commitments to us, we have the commitments tab and we have the ability to have both manual and scheduled. You'll see when I select scheduled that some recurrence fields will appear, so I can then start to enter in, this is going to be weekly. We'll say they're just going to donate once a year on the 1st, and then we can put a start and end date for that donation. And oftentimes the first amount might be different than the rest. Once this is entered in, I can then select the Generate Scheduled Commitments button, and that will generate all of the donor commitments for me without me having to do anything based on the information that I've put into the system. Then we can then monitor the affected or the paying of those donor commitments individually once they've been created and associated with the pledge record. If I did want to get more information about a donor commitment, then I can select that. And within the donor commitment, once again, we have our financial information, including at this point, we now have the gift type. So whether they're paying cash, credit card, direct debit. We have, if there's an admin fee designation, we can see that as long as the amount for this individual commitment. So we can roll that up or roll up to the pledge level, but we can also be quite granular down to the donor commitment level. And then we have our book date and whether or not this donor commitment is over or under committed. On the left, we have our categorization, which will be defaulted to all of the gifts that are created that are related to this donor commitment, because even within this donor commitment, they might make multiple actual donations to reach the full amount. Cool. So that takes us to our donations area. And so I've navigated to donations. So again, we've covered off most of the relationship stuff, and now we're going to take a quick look into our gifts, obviously a very important area here. So I'm just going to select new so you can see what this looks like when creating new gifts. And here you can see we have some key gift information. Once again, gift types are metadata based on the amount type of gifts that you take. So we have standard ones in terms of cash, credit, debit cards. You could also have some maybe non-standard ones. Maybe you accept paintings or gifts in kind. So you have flexibility over that. In the middle, you have that donor information area, which you covered off the relationships and intended use of these fields. We will always need to have a donor and a primary contact so that we can do the reporting and then also get in touch with people if required. We do have the ability to mark gifts as anonymous or not, our receipt preference, and a receipt if it's been generated based on this one. These two options, gifts as anonymous and receipt preference, will default based on the donor's information. So on the contact record, we have the ability to mark if they wanted their gifts as anonymous and their receipt preference. It will default, but you do have the ability to override that default for specific donations if required. We then have our reporting information here. So our DCAP. And once again, on the left side, we have our financial information in terms of what's been given, if there's any fee that had to be taken on the back of it, the book date, the deposit date, a reference if there is a reference during deposit, and then if it rolls up to a payment schedule, that can be there. And at the bottom, we also have our in tribute or memory of. Now, if I go into a processed gift here, we are going to see that we have 3 buttons at the top. So once a gift is processed, it will be locked down. You will not be able to update this gift because it has been processed unless you click one of the buttons at the top here. So we have a button to void, which will basically write this gift out of the system. It creates a new gift and writes out based on the amounts of the original gift. We can adjust, which is if someone's made an error during input of a gift, they can come in, they can maybe update the campaign, the appeal, and the package, or the amount. And then if a gift has not already been returned, a partial return or a full return, then you'll have a return here. This gift has been returned, so we can see that there is a related gift here. So we can click here. We can see that there is a related gift that was the initiator. This one's been voided. So that gift that we were just reviewing was the gift that was created when the void action was clicked on this originating gift. Now, in terms of getting gifts into the system, gift batches are extremely important. So I'm going to navigate to the gift area, the gift batch area, and I'm going to select a gift batch. Once again, some high-level information, including the deposit date for the gift. We have our default categorization, so this will appear on all gifts within this gift batch, but once again, can be overwritten at a gift record level, and then default gift dates and default donor information if required as well. Once again, all of that information will default onto gifts, but can be overwritten if required. Importantly, during gift batch import, we have some fields that will help you ensure that you're carrying out this activity correctly. So during it, I can say the expected number of gifts. Let's say I have a bunch of letters sitting next to me on my desk and I've counted them. I know there's 13, and I also have done the math and I know that there's an expected value to this amount. As I'm entering gifts into the system, the actual number of gifts and the actual value of those gifts will go up, and a reconciliation status will tell me information. If I have green, then both are matching. We're good to go. If I have amber, then there might be a mismatch within either the expected number or the expected value, and red will tell me that we are mismatching both of them. All of the gifts that have been created within a gift batch will appear here. And then once you process that, it will be locked down and you will not be able to update this gift batch anymore because it's been processed along with the gifts within that one. Now, importantly, we have our gift import and gift scanning functionality. So the gift import will give you the ability to import gifts from Excel templates. So Excel templates can be created. You can then complete those Excel templates and import them. That will automatically create a gift batch, and it will put all of the gifts or all of the lines within the Excel into the gift import. And then that gives me the ability to look at the record that's going to be created, that high-level information. The required fields on the ending gift will then be stored here. The lookup match field is very useful because oftentimes organizations do not have all of the information that they need. For instance, Bob Smith is the donor here. If I have that information on the Excel template, then this will automatically populate. However, if I only have his email or potentially a nickname for Bob, then I can put that here. And then I can select the donor contact. And what the system will do is it will populate with all of the different things that match. So in this case, we can see that we have donor match at this email address. It's gone through and it's looked for all of the different examples where that email is here. Ideally, you're doing good deduplication. You don't have this many options. And then you can easily find the one that you want to select. You can select that one, and then that's going to automatically populate in the donor. You can do that for all of the main required fields, so your designations, your campaigns, and all of that, so you can easily make relations so that you can finish your gift importing activity quite quickly. Once you've completed all of the gift imports, you can select individual records and you can convert it to a gift, or you can convert all of the gift imports within a gift batch into a gift, and it will then create your gifts in your gifts area for that gift batch. The other really cool functionality here that we have is our gift scanning. So as we talked about at the very beginning, we had our appeal to lists and we generated a barcode based on the number on the appeal to record. This gives me the ability to select this. This is going to take a little bit of time to load, and then it's going to tell me that it's ready to scan. As you can see here, I can then scan a barcode, which will read that text field and it will look up the appeal to lists records, and it will find a match, and then it will create a gift for me based on the information that was on that appeal to list. So all those donor information that we had on the appeal to list will automatically populate. When you're doing this within a gift batch that's currently in draft, this is an editable grid. So you can then go in and edit the other key information, such as the amount that was donated from that appeal to. So it's really easy to get that information on system as quickly as possible. So that's gift batches. That's our way of getting gifts into the system as easily as possible. And then the last area that we need to look through is our recurring gifts, which is very simple. Basically, the ability to set up a schedule. So we have our start and end date, our frequency of recurrence, so the monthly interval, and we can say this is going to happen on the 1st, and Zoe's going to be donating a gift of $55. Once that is set up, all of the payments that are made as relating to this recurring donation will appear here, and potentially you might expose the functionality to update the amount that Zoe is donating. You might expose that through a portal so Zoe can actually go and manage her recurring donations herself. As mentioned before, the payment method that's associated with this payment schedule and utilized for the creation or the payment taking for each based on the schedule will be stored in system, and users will have the ability to create and communicate with individuals to let them know if there's any issues with payment methods on system. And then potentially Zoe as a donor might go in and update her payment method so she can continue to make her scheduled donations. We do have our payments area at the bottom, which is all the payments that will come into the system, and then our receipts. Payments we have within this series of webinars. We'll have another webinar coming up where we'll deep dive into payments. So hopefully you guys can join us for that one. I'll skip over it for today. Basically, it's just the taking and storing of payment attempts and transactions as associated to gifts. And then receipts we've somewhat covered, but receipts will be created based on the templates that were stored and the priority order for each receipt. Obviously, you can use Word templates or another solution that we often use is DCP, which will give you the ability to build out really nice templates for those receipts. They can then be stored on it, the campaign, appeal, or package level. You might even create a template that's used for individual receipts on system as well. Finally, we have our payouts information. The intent of the payouts record is to make it really easy to do reconciliation of payouts from your payment processor, where you can add additional information, and then you can send that to your finance system to help with reconciliation when the finance system receives the bank statements. So that was a very quick whirlwind tour of this. The last thing that we're going to show before we go back to slides really quickly is what we're going to cover in the next month's webinar, which is our front end of this. So our Klevr portal. Essentially, the Klevr portal is a internal or external stakeholder portal where you can front any of the information and functionality within your Klevr Fundraising or Klevr grant solution. It is as configurable as your CE environment itself. In this instance, we can see that we can make donations. Next week, we're going to talk to our partners Sitback, which are masters of design, and they'll talk through a lot of the capabilities and cool ways that you can drive donor engagement through UI and UX within a user-facing portal. However, the underlying functionality would be driven by the Klevr portal functionality. Here you can see that I can create a donation. I can enter some information here, and then I would be able to donate now. That would immediately iframe into your chosen payment provider. We use Stripe out of the box, but we also use Payfro, which is a payment orchestrator, which allows you to leverage multiple payment processors, but only have to handle one point of integration, basically allowing you to connect to Payfro. Payfro connects to all of your other payment gateways, and it just allows you to leverage that simple integration and then additional functionality that Payfro provides you. We also have the ability to embed the portal. Here you can see this is our live Klevr site. You can go to this site now if you want, and we've added a donate now, and then we've embedded the Klevr portal here. So if you do have a website that you love, don't want to get rid of it, then you can just embed the donation page within that straight away. So I'm just going to stop sharing just so we can cover off the very last thing that we need to get to. And I will make it back to hopefully that comes on the screen in a second. Cool. So Microsoft is offering funds to organizations that are looking to transition onto Microsoft or transition from the existing F&E application to a new world, in this case, Klevr Fundraising. And so we can do needs assessments where we can come in and we can do discovery and take a look. We can leverage between 1.5 to 3K worth of funds. If you're currently on F&E, then you can leverage between 5K and 10K. And basically we can come in and we can do a fit gap analysis for you, take a look at what you're currently using and any key requirements that are not met within Klevr Fundraising, and then give you an idea of what an implementation would look like as you transition from your existing system onto the Klevr Fundraising product. So that is all for today. I understand that was a bit of a whirlwind, so hopefully that some of that sunk in. We do have 3 more of these webinars coming up. So the next one, as I mentioned, is going to be about leveraging user experience insights for online donations. Then we'll have our deep dive into PCI compliant donations, where we'll cover off payments in a little bit of a deeper way. And then we have our quicker, cheaper payments and de-risk gateway migrations, where we'll talk about how you can transition from current payment gateways into a new world and get your tokens and KYC and all of that fun stuff. So on behalf of myself, Zoe, the rest of the Walker Scott team on the call and not on the call, thank you very much for your time. We look forward to hearing from all of you. If you do have any other questions, please send them through and we'll make sure that we get answers to those as soon as possible. Thank you very much.